Hmm. Yeah. All right. How do I do this now? All right. And we're back with Truth Unrestricted, the podcast that's building language for the disinformation age. I've decided on a new tagline, David. How do you like it?
Building language.
Yeah.
How about
Yeah.
building visuals?
Okay. Hey, sure. For the people who catch us on YouTube, I am also building visuals, but take it all in where you can. For the people listening just on podcasts, I don't know. Continue
So,
driving, I guess. Don't get distracted by this.
or pop over to YouTube later and
Yeah, yeah, check it out on YouTube. Yeah.
yeah.
Because this will be on YouTube. That's the big announcement is I'm definitely putting this on YouTube. I'm not even sure how yet, but I'll figure it out.
Well, you'd better. I got all dressed up. I'm out here at a football field in the
Yeah.
middle of the
That's
night.
right. You're our man on the scene.
Yeah.
Right.
So
So, we do want to talk about football today. We have one central question to ask, um, which is, can football be rigged? So, take it away, David. Can football be rigged?
yes, but that's
Okay.
not the question we had talked about. So
Oh, come on, come on. Okay. So maybe not exactly. So, okay. Do you think it would be possible for uh someone to fix football, the outcome of a football game, particularly like an important football game like the Super Bowl?
the Super Bowl, no, or very unlikely.
Right.
The a general football game, maybe. But I think we should start with the Super Bowl and go
Well,
from
it,
there.
it just happened, so I feel like
Yes.
it's topical.
Yeah.
The most recent football game in most people's memory right now.
Yes. Yes. And I think the first question that needs to be answered is who would supposedly fix a football game like the one we just witnessed?
Hmm.
Um, because okay, the Chiefs, they sucked. And I'm sitting here wearing Bears gear and saying the Chiefs sucked. It looked like the Bears offensive line was playing for the Chiefs. That's how bad it was. And, you know, you had also brought up that some people suggested, brought up offline, obviously,
Hmm.
that Mahomes in particular was somehow influenced to throw the Super Bowl.
Well, it did appear in the first quarter, especially. He was having, in the first half of the game, he was having a very bad day.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Ooh, we'll get
but
into that in more detail, but yeah.
But the thing is, let's start with the who question.
Hmm.
Would the NFL want him to throw it? Did they say, "Oh, the Chiefs are getting too much. We want, we want the Eagles
Right.
to have it this time"? Because yeah, if there's one thing that big leagues hate, it's having big name stars.
Yeah.
They hate it. They don't
That would
want
be
that. It would
terrible for
be
the NFL in general to have a team that had a dynasty. It would be
right,
awful. Like,
right.
why would they want that?
Yeah, you wouldn't want him to have a three-peat team like the Chicago Bulls were back in the day. Nobody liked the Bulls. Who
Yeah,
who would have
like
liked that?
we definitely don't talk about the Bulls from the 90s now.
No,
Like,
no, never.
why?
Um, so
It
if
almost
not
killed
the
basketball, in fact, to have
yeah,
one team be so dominant like that.
right. And so okay, if not the NFL, would gamblers want it? And I think okay, there are times certainly in history when gamblers have fixed sporting events. This is not unheard of in any
Influenced,
way.
influenced, and in some cases succeeded in influencing.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
But it's not like this was a situation where it's a boxing match and one boxer has 20 to 1 odds to win
Hmm.
and they have the other boxer take a dive, so that they can get their 20 to 1.
In
No,
the case of boxing, you have kind of one person that
right.
can determine all of those
Exactly.
that whole outcome. Yeah, right.
Exactly. And in this case, when I looked at the odds on DraftKings shortly before the game, I think the Eagles were like a plus 100 to win. So, do you know how much money you'd have to bet to make anything significant off of that? Not nearly enough. You'd have to bet like this huge same game parlay of the Eagles win and they score over 40 points and Mahomes has 2 interceptions and this and that. It's just not worth it. So then you wonder if they were going to have the Chiefs throw it, wouldn't they do it in some sort of more realistic fashion? And depending on who, quote unquote, they are, wouldn't you want it close until the end? Especially if it was like the NFL doing it. I'm sure, I haven't seen it, but I'm sure their ratings plunged. Because it never sticks, they won by over 20, and that was after some long bomb that Mahomes threw. So that game was over long before it was over. And I'm sure lots of people were switching away to other things.
Well, at the party I went to, people, they went there to watch the game. They still watched
at
the
a
entire
party,
thing.
yes. At a party, yes.
Yeah.
But the real thing is, as with any grand conspiracy, the biggest flaw is in the idea that it could involve so many people and magically remain secret. Because, according to these conspiracies, it's not just this one, but many games over many years that are fixed. And so how many people would have to be involved? And I have different thoughts on, okay, maybe it was just this one. But for now, let's just say this. Are they going to rely on just one person to ensure the outcome? For example, there's a common claim, the refs were paid off. Well, first of all, there's a lot of refs in the game.
Yeah.
Okay. This is not, this is not a baseball game where the home plate umpire can adjust the balls and strikes and really screw it up, which a lot more difficult to do when they put a box around, home plate strike zone every time. But there's a lot of people to ensure the right calls or non-calls at the right times.
Yeah.
We've all seen it watching football. Sometimes they'll throw a flag and then the refs will get together and they'll be like, oh, that wasn't a flag. I saw it from a different angle. So if you're going to try to do that, you have to overcome, if you're doing it alone as a ref, you have to overcome your partners, or they all have to be in on it. But then if you're involving players too, that's even more people.
Yeah.
For example, you mentioned Mahomes. Well, you can't just pay off Mahomes. It was not his fault that his entire offensive line looked like wet toilet paper. Okay.
Yeah.
You would have need to pay off the whole damn offensive line to make it look the way it did. And again, if it wasn't just this game, this would have to be occurring over the course of years, meaning hundreds or thousands of people would be involved, and not a single one of them has ever spoken up.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to. I mean, we imagine this is sort of the way that these conspiracy ideas become real in the minds of people. They imagine that paying someone some amount of money is enough to influence their decisions in this exact way. This is sort of inside the mechanics of how people imagine these things happen, right?
Right.
And of course, it has to be a sum of money that would allow a person to be okay with losing the Super Bowl. So
let me.
Right, but we might imagine that, maybe they didn't really care about winning the Super Bowl, so it didn't take that much money. But it's going to take a lot to convince me anyway that the players that were on that team, the Kansas City Chiefs, this year, 2025, didn't really want to win the Super Bowl for a third time in a row. They know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to win 3 times in a row. I guarantee they really wanted to win. So what would we imagine there's some amount of money, but what do we imagine that amount of money is? Like,
well, it's
why don't you go
ask
Patrick Mahomes how much money it would have taken, right?
Well,
he would have said none.
And that's the exact thing, because from my research, his net worth is currently estimated at around $90 million. Okay. According to Forbes, he was expected to earn 81 million during the 2024 league year alone between his salary and endorsements.
Yeah.
Now that 90 and 81 don't exactly add up, so he either spends a lot or the 90 million is a little older. He has made, again, according to Forbes, a whopping $25 million just from deals with brands like Adidas, Coors Light, State Farm, and more.
Yeah.
He said in a May 2023 press conference that he worries about legacy and winning rings more than I worry about making money at this moment. Now, admittedly, that's just him saying it. And of course, you know, it's a lot easier to say that when you've got $90 million in the bank, apparently, you know, I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's just take that for what it is. In July of 2020, he signed a 10-year, $450 million extension deal with the Chiefs, which was the largest contract in NFL history as measured by total value, according to ESPN. The deal was renegotiated in 2023 so that he would get more money up front. And he is guaranteed, according to the NFL, $210.6 million between 2023 and 2026, which is also the most money in NFL history over a 4-season span.
It's a lot.
Now, in addition to this, he has bought into other sports. He has a stake in the Kansas City Royals. He has a stake in the Sporting KC, which is Major League Soccer. He has a stake in the Kansas City Current, the NWSL. He has a stake in the Alpine Formula One team. He became the lead investor and number 2 shareholder of Throne Sport Coffee in May of last year. I've never heard of it either, but hey. So let's think about this. Not only would it take a vast sum of money to pay him off, but consider how much he would lose if he were ever found out to be involved in something like this. A baseball umpire just within the past week was fired because he was found to be sharing an online gambling account with a friend who made bets on baseball games, including some that he was umpiring. Okay? Fired. Lost his whole career.
Oh.
Pete Rose was banned from baseball forever, lost a countless amount of money because he was involved in gambling, even though there was never any evidence it involved games that he was actually in. Mahomes would lose everything. His career, his name, his advertising, his contracts.
Yeah.
He'd be booted from the NFL. He would probably be booted from his stake in ownership in those other sports teams that I just mentioned. Everything. So again, how much money would someone have to pay him to make it worth all that risk?
Would have to be a lot. So I think it's time to get into some of our new YouTube capability here. Sorry for the people just listening on the podcast feed. We'll try to make up for it with our voices. But there's a reason why I wanted to do this episode, a very particular reason why. So we're going to start getting into that right now. Share. You're about to see this. So this is just a screen capture, David.
Okay.
You can see it now.
Yes.
This is just a screen capture from a YouTube video I was watching yesterday. So this is another channel on YouTube. This was from Nate Tice and Matt Harmon on the fifth quarter is what they call their show, talking about football. And they went over the game, they broke it down. This was kind of the morning after show. This was on yesterday morning. I watched it. And 21 minutes into the show, I see this screen, which is Super Bowl 59 recap, three-peat denied, Chiefs fail to complete three-peat. And then just below that, it says conspiracy killer. Loss proves NFL is not rigged. So, like I sat in through a Super Bowl party with a bunch of bummed out people who all wanted the Chiefs to win. And, this sort of comes out as a level of like cynicism, sort of a defeatist notion that, it's I've only lost because of some, extra power cheating to step in the way of the thing I imagined to happen, right?
No one would ever say that in any other situation, someone losing because of cheating.
Well,
outside of sports, that would never
we
come
are
up.
the kings of irony today. Yes, of course. But this is when you hear this in conversation with people, that's how it comes out. It just kind of feels like a cynical notion, and it's half inspired and half amplified by the fact that there are people with many billions of dollars at their disposal, seemingly as pocket change that they could just throw into an effort like this if they really wanted to somehow for some reason. And that they exist tends to ignite imaginations about what they might be doing with that money that we don't know about, right? And that's everything that's behind the curtain is fodder for what we think might, be keeping us in and keeping us from the things we want, which in this case was a Kansas City Chief win.
But again, then you have to ask why. If you have billions of dollars.
Well, I know, yeah. Why? Just to screw with people? Like, why?
Yeah, why? Okay, so let's say that Elon Musk, off to the side of wrecking the entire U.S. government, decided he doesn't want the Chiefs to win, which is odd because Trump did want the Chiefs to win. But, so he decides he doesn't want the Chiefs to win. So he pays Patrick Mahomes $1 billion.
Right. Start throwing interceptions already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why? Again, there's, the people who have that kind of money, the people, organizations, whatever, it comes back to a question of why. Like I said earlier, you're not going to recoup it as gambling gains.
Yeah.
There was there was no way you were betting enough money on this game at these odds to do that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But to say that Elon Musk wouldn't do it because of this reason, you're opening yourself up to the possibility that George Soros was paying him to do it, right? Yeah,
of course. Yes,
that demon George, he might just be doing this just to spite Trump for some reason. Yeah. We don't know why. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't need to. But this sort of notion is in the zeitgeist enough that these two guys, who I've come to understand are known in the football world for I don't pay a lot of attention to football, but these are names that I even recognized, sort of. Who do this show on YouTube. Well, I think they do it somewhere else and repeat it to YouTube, but it doesn't really matter. I watched it on YouTube, and they felt the need to put this in writing that the loss proves that the NFL is not rigged. Of course, it being a loss doesn't prove it's not rigged. Of course, this isn't, that's not how proof works.
Right.
I think there's other proof that the rigging didn't occur. So
I think they were just
really quickly here
putting in a snotty little remark there to the people who are saying it is rigged, and I approve, and appreciate the remark.
But they felt the need to say it, is my point, right? So it's in the world somewhere that some people echo these ideas and right. So we're going to get into the only way you could have it really be rigged. Like here's the thing is that here's the thing I have said before in other contexts, but the internet and most of our communication now is built on a base layer of exaggeration, right? So
you've said that a million times.
Yeah. Thank you. I want credit for having said it a million times. So you get the situation where when something is in every occurrence where I hear someone saying that someone is in control of a thing, influencing it is actually a better word to have used at the time. So, someone might be exerting an influence on a thing and they say, oh, well, he's controlling it. But that's just an exaggeration of the thing. So what you're talking about, how one single person, Patrick Mahomes, we
Mhm.
imagine in some parallel universe, maybe he actually accepted a pile of money, $1 billion or whatever, to throw a couple extra interceptions and trash the game or whatever. That's still one guy influencing the outcome. Like we'd have to imagine then that the coach doesn't notice and replace
Right.
him, because the coach has the power to do that. The owner doesn't notice and replace him
Mhm.
because the owner has the power to overwhelm the coach and make sure this happens. There's other staff that could notice this. The rest of the team doesn't pull him aside at halftime and say, "What the hell, man?
Yeah.
It's obvious that you're tanking this. Either cut us in on the pot or smarten up and fly right, right?" So and he does have to face the rest of his teammates, right? So at
Right.
that point, you would have to imagine he's also paying off the rest of the team, which
Well, that's
includes
exactly what I
all the
was saying. Here's
players and the coach, all the
yeah.
entire coaching staff. Like, you have to include a payoff. It's a much bigger payoff, right? Because it explodes. It's at least 100 times the number of people you have to
Right.
start including in this thing, and that's just the number of people you have to give money to on the Kansas City Chiefs team in order to imagine that they're going to do that. But even then, you have a new situation because you have a level of choreography that you have to accomplish in order to make this look good. Because we can see, like, football is one of the most videotaped games, most watched from many angles
Mhm.
games anywhere. So to imagine that you could, not, if someone's faking something, like we fake things, there's people who fake things in Hollywood movies, but
Right.
they're only showing, the camera's only watching from one angle, and that's mostly how they fake things. I watched Lord of the Rings. I could see clearly that Gandalf was like 3 times as tall as Frodo. But I
Mhm.
also watched the DVD extras where I could see that they did this by building a cart where the one side of the cart is much closer than the other, and the two actors are just arranged just so that it
Right.
looks like they're right beside each other, and one of them is much taller than the other, but one of them is actually like 3 times closer. So if you had a camera angle from the other side, you would see how ridiculous it was to imagine that Gandalf is much, much taller than Frodo. And football is seen from many angles, like more than 10, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and also, the crowd is watching from all angles. They're not as close as the cameras, but they are still there.
Right.
So if you were going to have a thing where you somehow choreographed these plays to look real, there would be other signs. It would be an immense amount of time it would take to choreograph this, so that and in fact, in many ways, the other team would have to be in some way in on it, right? Um, like, what does that look like, right? Um,
I mean, is there a way that you could, I don't know if you need the graphics still up there, but is there a way that you
sure. Stop that.
um, could fix certain games? And the answer is yes.
See,
Or you can influence
again,
them somewhat.
influence. I think the key word
Es-
is influence. Like, even
right.
if the other
Especially,
team go,
especially,
paid
right.
off one of the assistant coaches to buy their
Yeah.
playbook or something,
Yeah. Or,
right?
yeah.
You
If
could
you,
influence something, right?
yeah,
But there's still a
let's
possibility it
say,
gets past you.
right. Let's say Mahomes was some rookie on a, backup on a
Hmm.
couple $100,000 a year contract.
Sure.
Okay. And someone wanted to pay him to blow it.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much to throw a couple of passes a little bit off.
Hmm.
But again, that's assuming everything else works to plan. Nothing was needed here because the Eagles defense just completely overran the offensive line of the Chiefs. So there was nothing needed. In other games, have there been, I don't want anyone to come out of this thinking, oh, these two guys, they say there's never been any fixes in sports. Of course there has.
There has been people who influence the outcome who
Right.
were not in the game or on
Yes.
the coaching staff. Yeah, that's
Um,
true.
and there's other things, we already talked about the umpire who shared the gambling account. Now, did he call things differently? Did he even know that his friend was betting on that game? Not
Mm.
necessarily. Did you know? Could it happen? Yes, but even the home plate umpire calling balls and strikes
Mm.
can't fix the game
Yeah,
because eventually they adjust. The pitchers adjust. The batters adjust.
yeah,
The other players adjust.
yeah. They react to
Okay.
the thing that's happening around them. Yeah.
Right. And maybe 20 years ago it was easier for an ump, but there's also instant replay. So
Mm.
he can't even call someone out at home when they were actually safe because a replay official is going to look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah. And that's going to affect. I mean, if it doesn't affect the game at the time, like if they don't aren't able to call back the play or anything like that, it's going to affect his ability to continue being an umpire after
Right.
that point. They're going to do something about it because that's their job,
Yeah.
generally
Is,
speaking, to keep the sport on the up and up.
yeah. Is a basketball ref. There's only, what, two or three of them, basketball refs on the court at the time.
Hmm.
Could one of them be paid to influence the outcome?
Could
Sure.
be.
Those games tend to be a lot closer.
Hmm.
So one extra foul or one foul not called, here and
Maybe.
there, it could easily influence the outcome of the game. Has there been proof of this? Yeah. Okay. I didn't research it. Has any ref ever been found to, have done this? Probably.
At the college
At all
level
the
or
various
something, as
levels.
a
Yeah.
lower level, yeah, maybe there
Right.
was someone who, yeah,
Right.
right.
Have players been found to? Yeah,
Every once in a
probably
while, yeah.
over the course of decades
Or there was
and
some
longer.
suspicion that they
Right,
might have because of some activity they were involved
right,
in, and then they were suspended or
yeah,
punished in some way. Yeah, right.
yeah. But the Super Bowl
Yeah, yeah.
and losing it so big in this particular year. Now, I do want to say,
Hmm.
if those who like to claim there's a Super Bowl conspiracy really want to join the big leagues of conspiracy nuts, they need to step up their game.
Hmm.
Because the morning we're recording this, I saw an article about the death of Aiden Manzano, a 27-year-old sports reporter working for Kansas City's Telemundo station. He's worked there for nearly 4 years. People said great things about him. He came to New Orleans, to report on the game. And his body was found in his hotel room before the game started, like a few days before, with some signs of robbery and having been drugged. Police are looking into a career criminal. I say looking into. From what I read, it doesn't look good for her. She is known to have run fraud schemes in the city. She was seen with him several times, including on video going into his hotel room. He never came out again. She did. Now, on top of that, let's add one more big conspiracy thing.
Okay.
Manzano's wife died in a car accident last year. Okay. So, how long?
No coincidences.
Right.
No coincidences.
I'm sorry if any member of his family or friend happens to be listening to the podcast. I do not mean to be using this as a joke. But how long? We got to get out ahead of the conspiracists. How long before they say he found out something about the Chiefs during his reporting and something that was going to happen in the Super Bowl? And the people running the conspiracy, they tried to sideline him by killing his wife first. But no, he kept going. He kept working. So when that didn't work, they killed him. This is exactly the type of coincidence that conspiracy mongers would jump on in other situations. And here it is right in front of us, real.
Yeah, I think the football conspiracists are, they're phoning it in. I think it's more the base cynicism and not the ultimate, evil, it's controlling the world thing that other people get into with QAnon and these others. But I think that I wanna show some more images on YouTube here, David, because I really want to play with this ability now. Um, so I don't think I'll get in trouble for this, especially if I keep it short. But I also want to attribute and I'll provide links for this to anyone who wants to see. But this that I'm about to share is from the halftime show. It's an example of choreography, David. So here we go. All right. So this was from, I don't suppose you're big on the halftime show, but this was from the halftime show. It's just a
did
few
watch it.
seconds. But here's Kendrick Lamar and his part of his show. And then they scatter. And that was, I mean, it is sort of visually impressive. It's a lot going on. The bodies are moving left and right and past each other, and there's a lot of things. I mean, it's a little dramatic to say that it's like a battle scene from like Braveheart or something, but it's essentially a lot of, I mean, it did remind me a lot of the battle scenes in Bravehearts with soldiers running past each other, only in that case with like swords and axes and whatever. In this case, just running past each other and not pretend to killing each other. But that's an example of choreography. So we're going to switch to an actual example of a thing that wasn't choreography. And that's right here. Share. So this is a clip from the game.
Yendo.
Yeah.
And Patrick's trying to get one of those explosive plays that this team just does not give up. But you get in these situations.
Patrick Mahomes attempting to make a pass, surrounded by people, getting sacked, getting mushed from both sides. And he's about to throw the ball. The ball behind him that he can't even see. A player is interrupting, taking the ball away from him, while another one in front of him, while he's distracted in that way, pushes him and kind of hits him in the face, pushes him down. That's not comparable. I mean, this is the kind of thing you could recreate in a movie. But again, you would seeing it the same thing from a different angle than the one we're happy to see it at. And that clip showed it from like 3 or 4 different angles even.
Yes.
And already showing us that this is just people in a scrum, in a chaotic situation, having two teams of people with separate goals that oppose each other. That's the purpose of the game. It's to imagine that this could be choreographed in some way is also not really possible. I think it's that level of coordination being done by people.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried to coordinate people, David. It's not it's not something that happens this smoothly. It takes an amazing amount of rehearsal for something, and even then you never get it the same every time, and it never looks, it definitely doesn't look like this.
So
and
I'm going
for anyone
to,
who's used to that can tell the difference. Can tell the difference between that.
So I'm going to say,
Mm-hmm.
no offense to you,
Sure.
I think that's a bit of a straw man argument, because
All right,
I don't
all right.
think that even the most devoted football conspiracist would say the plays are choreographed. It's not professional wrestling.
No, but that's what you have to go to once you do the logic we did previously, David, where you say, okay, how could it be one player and none of the other people surrounding them and on the same team and coaching staff as them know or suspect anything?
Well, and that's why
suddenly they have to be all involved. And once they're all involved, then how does that work?
Right.
You know what I mean?
It would have been tough if it would have been tough. Let's say that there was a billionaire who paid off Patrick Mahomes. It would have been tough for him alone to blow the game without it being obvious if his entire offensive line hadn't crumbled.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I said for this to happen, you needed to at least include them. But without that, if they had played like they normally did, he would have had to make such horrendous moves.
Yeah.
He would have had to have like a 5 turnover game in order to ensure the outcome that was necessary.
Right. But I think we should go over the sequence of plays that is going to that is probably the most responsible for causing this idea to appear in people's heads. Let's just I'll just view that here. Yeah, okay. So this is going to be, this is also from the official NFL YouTube channel, and this is this clip is the day after game highlights. It's all the consequential plays, just with all the extra fill cropped out. And this is going to be 3 plays all in one sequence. Like there's no additional plays in between. So here we go.
Overhaul for the Eagles.
They start.
So far looking good in the first half of this
the first is going to be a sack.
Is sacked. Josh Sweat gets home.
Okay. Next play.
2nd and 14.
Next play. Also a sack.
Sacked again.
Sacked twice in a row, which must be very odd for Patrick Mahomes.
This time it's Jalix.
And the very next play,
3rd and 16.
he's under pressure, but he fires and it's intercepted.
Yep.
So, you know, to watch a team that's as good as the Kansas City Chiefs have this happen, and this is the second quarter, when they're already down at that point, 10-0. I think that sequence is going to be more responsible for causing this to appear in a lot of people's minds. Like, oh my God, like, how is it possible that this is happening? Right? The answer being it's fake because the whole world is fake or whatever they think, you know?
I mean, how is it possible? I don't know. I don't know how. I mean, like I said, my theory was that somehow the Bears' offensive line got subbed in because that looked like every series of downs for the Bears this season, pretty much. So, you know, and it's not a conspiracy. I predicted that at the beginning of the season. I was, you know, they got their new number 1 draft pick. And I said, well, if they don't get a new coach or a new offensive line, it's going to be more of the same. And they didn't get a new coach or a new offensive line, and it was more of the same. And now they have new coaches, and they actually went out and got good coaches. So, you know, who knows? Is there a chance that something might change? Yes.
Maybe we'll revisit this next season after they lose the Super Bowl, and you can tell us all about how you think it's rigged.
That's right.
They stole it from me.
But I mean, yeah, we saw it right there. Just everything collapsed around him.
Yeah.
And it's not one thing that he did. Even the interception. It wasn't like he
would have had to have known that the opposing player was going to be in that spot.
Right.
Because that's how passes work. You work out in advance where your receivers are going to be, and then you pass to that position.
Yes.
And sometimes they make it there, and sometimes they don't.
Coming this way, and he did not see the defender coming that way.
Because you can't see everything on the field.
Right.
Even Patrick Mahomes can't see everything on the field. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's.
Yeah.
You know, I know, like you said, this is not the most consequential of all conspiracies.
No.
But people who like to have their fun with these little conspiracies, and this is something that I've, you know, argued with people about before. It's like, oh, let me have my fun. No, because it leads to this type of thinking. And that type of thinking goes to what I was talking about earlier. Finding, oh my gosh, the reporter dying and his wife, that can't have been a coincidence. If this were something, some guy reporting on Obama, the right wing would have had a field day with it. It would be in all the news right now because they would be promoting it.
Right.
So conspiracy thinking is an overall problem, whether it's about the football game or about anything else.
Yeah, you're right. But I wanted to work in the football angle. We don't get to talk about this fun stuff as much as we should. And as everyone keeps reminding me, we got to find ways to have fun in this dark time. So this was good. This was fun. We'll cap it off here, I think. Where can people find you, David?
Well, they could find me. The easiest way is at Linktree/David Bloomberg with a dot before the EE in the URL. More directly, I'm at David Bloomberg on Blue Sky. And I am at David Bloomberg TV on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. But all of that is, having fun with reality TV videos rather than usually serious stuff. So the more serious stuff, again, you can find on Blue Sky, where it's a mix of serious stuff and reality TV. It's literally like me tweeting about how horrible Musk is, me tweeting about how horrible Trump is, me tweeting about Survivor, or Deal or No Deal Island. It's funny because like just today or over the past day and a half, I have gone over and under 4,100 followers on Blue Sky. Like it keeps, I gain 2, I lose 2. I gain 2, I lose 2. It's, I think it's people follow me for politics. They see the reality TV. People follow me for reality TV. They see the politics. It goes up and down there. Yeah. And so, but that's it. It's a mix of different areas.
Yeah. And this will air also on the podcast feed. And for anyone catching this on YouTube who's not familiar, there is a podcast called the Truth Unrestricted Podcast that has just recently got over 100 episodes for real. So that's fun. Go check that out if you're into podcasts. And there'll probably be some YouTube content we do that's not for podcast, but I'm still figuring this out. Give me a break. I don't have my whole life and everything planned in advance.
Someone does. They do.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have their lives, or they have my life planned.
Yours.
Oh, okay.
It's on a script somewhere.
Hopefully, there's maybe some people who watch this on YouTube on their script, or defy the odds. Watch it anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess we'll sign off. So till next time, David.
Until next time.